Can you repeat, please?
Telenovelas.
Hola, muchachos.
Swedish women occupy a prominent place in many men's fantasies. It can be said that some of them are decisive.
They call it paradise, a country of forests and fjords, where blonde beauty walks beneath Gothic rooftops and rivers hum through green silence. Sweden, often portrayed as a utopia of welfare, progress, and natural elegance, has become one of the world's most desired destinations. Whether it's the clean air, the stunning architecture, or the whisper of calm in its urban rhythm, this Nordic land seduces the imagination. In 2024, Sweden was ranked the 4th happiest country in the world, according to CNN and Forbes. It's praised for its stability, safety, and a lifestyle that blends nature with technology, minimalism with warmth. Tourists marvel at Stockholm's glassy waters and curated parks. Expats post pictures of midsummer celebrations under midnight suns. Social media sells the fantasy. But what if this beauty is surface deep? Behind the lakes and pine trees, there are murmurs, struggles that rarely make the brochures. Immigration tension, youth violence, cultural isolation, and economic pressures, they all swirl beneath the polished exterior. In this documentary, we peel back the layers, because behind every paradise is a price, and behind every postcard, a story they don't always tell you. And so we begin, not with judgment, but with curiosity. Is Sweden truly a model nation, or is it a dream too smooth to be real? Let's start with the silence. Not just the one in the woods, but the one between people.
At that time, many tourists from Northern Europe began to arrive to its coasts. A newspaper article of the time summed it up as follows: "From Paris upwards, they are all Swedes," attributing physical virtues to women from Sweden and thus to all others. These foreign women made their presence felt. They were bold and daring in their dress compared to the Spanish counterparts of the time.
Space and silence, a giant land with few voices. Sweden is massive, 528,000 square kilometers, almost identical in size to Spain, Thailand, or California. But where those places are packed with life, Sweden holds only 11 million people. That's not just spacious, it's nearly empty by comparison. Drive across the countryside and you'll find vast stretches of nothing. Lakes, forests, frozen soil, and silence. That silence isn't just physical. In Swedish cities, it becomes cultural. Public spaces are clean, efficient, eerily calm. No honking horns, no shouting vendors. Even the metro rides feel like meditations. You can walk through an entire neighborhood and not make eye contact once. For Swedes, this is normal, comforting even. But for newcomers, especially those from more chaotic, socially expressive cultures, it can feel like emotional exile. Loneliness wrapped in perfection. Quiet streets that whisper, "You're not one of us." Some immigrants describe the space not as freedom, but as social emptiness. A vast, clean box with no doors into community. In many neighborhoods, you may never meet your neighbor. Friendships take years to form. Conversations are short, small talk is rare, and vulnerability is foreign. And yet, this is the surface of what many see as utopia. The paradox begins to take shape. A country with too much room to breathe, and yet not enough connection to feel alive. But maybe the answer lies in the one thing Sweden has more of than silence: nature. Wild, untouched, and sacred. Nature is a way of life. In Sweden, nature isn't an escape, it's a lifestyle. 69% of the country is forest, and it's home to more than 220,000 islands, most of them untouched by development. This is a place where the wilderness isn't feared, it's revered. Swedes don't visit nature on weekends, they live in it. Children are raised to respect the forest. People forage for wild herbs, blueberries, and mushrooms, not as a trend, but as tradition. Hiking trails are common knowledge. Lakes are for swimming, even when they're cold. In winter, fireplaces crackle in cabins nestled among snow-laden pines. Nature is the national therapist, and everyone has an appointment. Even the cities reflect this relationship. Buildings are designed around trees, not over them. Streets are lined with parks. You can drink from a public fountain and know the water is cleaner than what you buy in bottles. The air, heavy with pine and clean frost, carries more oxygen than most urban centers in the world. But this harmony comes with a flip side. When a culture becomes so deeply aligned with solitude and space, it becomes harder to integrate those who come from places where nature is louder, denser, and more chaotic. Immigrants often find the beauty overwhelming, but isolating. The silence of the woods mirrors the quiet rejection of society. Still, for many Swedes, nature is not an alternative. It's their identity. It is what grounds them in an otherwise shifting world. And in that natural perfection, another kind of expectation begins to emerge, one that isn't carved from trees, but from faces. Beauty standard or social pressure? It's no secret. Sweden is known for its beauty, not just in its landscapes, but in its people. From fashion runways to dating apps, Swedes are often described as some of the most attractive individuals on the planet. Tall, slender, with ash blonde hair and blue eyes, they seem to walk through the world as if sculpted by symmetry and simplicity. But beauty in Sweden isn't just genetic, it's cultural currency. Grooming is serious, fitness is a lifestyle, clothing is sleek, even in casual settings. And unlike many countries, this applies to all ages. Elderly men wear tailored coats. Middle-aged women glow with healthy skin and calm poise. Presentation isn't vanity, it's national character. For outsiders, this can be both dazzling and demoralizing. Immigrants often speak of feeling out of place, especially in urban settings. Even those considered attractive in their home countries find themselves unnoticed, unchosen, or subtly excluded. The pressure to conform, not just physically but socially, is immense. Because here, appearance isn't just about beauty. It signals status, integration, even morality. A well-dressed person is seen as responsible, healthy, and trustworthy. Someone who doesn't fit the look, often labeled as an outsider before a word is spoken. And so, in a country where the forests are untouched and the streets immaculate, bodies too are expected to reflect perfection. The paradox continues. Beauty here is effortless, yet intensely maintained. It's no wonder, then, that love in Sweden comes not just from the heart, but often from behind a screen. Dating in a cold country romance in Sweden is a quiet game. Public flirtation is rare. Conversations with strangers, almost taboo. While the country is progressive and sexually open on paper, in practice, dating is defined by distance, hesitation, and digital mediation. Enter Tinder. The dating app is a lifeline, especially for immigrants and newcomers. In a society where social rejection feels sharp and stoic, swiping right becomes a safer way to connect. People say what they won't in public. Affection begins through screens, not streets. But the culture around dating here is serious. Swedish men and women often look for commitment, not casual flings. Relationships take time to build, but when they do, they're strong, equal, and long-term. There's a mutual respect, but also a mutual caution. For many, dating outside apps requires finding rare pockets of openness, like salsa dance clubs, community events, or language exchanges. But even these can feel like lanes in a sea of social formality. And so, in the land of long winters and longer silences, love isn't loud, it's understated, reserved, often delayed. For some, that's beautiful. For others, it's unbearable. Still, love is only one part of the equation. What about living, thriving, affording life in this frozen Eden? That's where the real shock sets in. Sweden may look like paradise, but living here can feel like paying for a five-star hotel every day of your life. Taxes are notoriously high. Freelancers and professionals often pay up to 60% of their income in taxes. It's part of the social contract. High taxes fund great healthcare, education, and infrastructure. But for those not born into the system, the math can feel cruel. Basic expenses bite. A coffee? $6. A simple plate of pasta? $25. Since the pandemic and the war in Ukraine, inflation has gnawed at even the essentials. Food prices are up 10%, electricity bills have quintupled, and housing in urban areas is prohibitively expensive. For immigrants, the challenge is doubled. Not only are they dealing with culture shock and language barriers, they're often sending money home, supporting families, or converting weaker currencies into Swedish kroner. It's a financial tightrope walked in the snow, and yet those who make it work speak of the rewards: clean streets, safe neighborhoods, free education. A society that, despite its flaws, functions. But functioning doesn't mean flourishing. And behind every paycheck, there's a price. In the next chapter, we'll look at those who came chasing the Swedish dream, only to find it's harder to live than it is to imagine. Immigration, a dream deferred. They came with hope. Fleeing war, poverty, or hopelessness, immigrants from Syria, Somalia, Afghanistan, and Iraq arrived in Sweden, chasing a dream sold to them in stories of peace, prosperity, and second chances. For many, the welcome was real. Sweden offered housing, language classes, education, but over time, something changed. Integration stalled, communities became isolated, and the dream began to fracture. Today, many immigrant neighborhoods are marked not by opportunity, but by ghettoization and underemployment. In cities like Malmö and Gothenburg, a parallel society has formed, disconnected from the Swedish mainstream. Tensions have grown. Misunderstandings have deepened. Some Swedes feel immigration was too fast, too broad. Others blame policymakers who promised inclusion but delivered only subsidies. Now, in a dramatic turn, the Swedish government is offering $34,000 to immigrants willing to return home voluntarily. A bribe, some call it. A surrender, say others. The question lingers in the cold air. What happens when the dream of belonging dissolves into paperwork and policy? Because where hope is deferred, something darker often takes root. And in Sweden, that darkness has a name. Gangs. The dark side of silence. Gangs and child crime. In the world's fourth happiest country, explosions echo through the suburbs. Sweden now records as many bombings per capita as Mexico, a statistic that shatters its image of Nordic peace. But the most chilling aspect? The faces behind the violence. Kids, some just 11 or 12 years old, lured by gangs, paid to carry drugs, or worse, to kill. In recent years, schoolyards have become crime scenes. Bullet holes scar swing sets. Police tape flutters in places once meant for laughter. The military has been called in to support law enforcement. Sweden, for the first time in modern memory, is at war. Not with another country, but with its own neglected youth. How did it come to this? Many blame economic disparity and failed integration. Others point to a culture of silence that allowed warning signs to go unanswered. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. A generation growing up between social rejection and survival instinct. For a country once known for neutrality, Sweden is learning that conflict doesn't always come from outside. Sometimes it grows quietly within. But crime is just one symptom. At its root lies something more persistent. A system that welcomed the world, but never truly asked if it was ready to embrace it. The integration illusion. On paper, Sweden did everything right. It offered free language classes, housing support, and generous welfare to new arrivals. It extended hands, it opened doors, but somewhere between policy and practice, the connection broke. Many Swedes now whisper what others shout. Integration has failed. Not for everyone, but for many. Entire neighborhoods function outside Swedish norms, with their own languages, customs, and economies. In some areas, even police fear to enter. The dream of a united multicultural society has blurred into a patchwork of distrust. Why didn't it work? Some say immigrants came only for economic survival, not to become Swedish. Others say Sweden expected too much conformity, too quickly. The government, accused of throwing money at the problem, failed to invest in real cultural bridges. And amidst all this, the media stokes fires, painting immigrants as dangerous while hiding local crimes behind ambiguous headlines. The result? Suspicion, stereotypes. A quiet resentment that simmers behind Stockholm's polite smiles. Integration, it turns out, isn't about paperwork or subsidies. It's about belonging. And that's something no government can legislate. But this emotional distance doesn't just affect immigrants. It defines the very culture they try to join. A culture where silence speaks louder than words. Calm cities, cold culture. Visit Stockholm and you'll be stunned. Streets are spotless. Public transport arrives on the second. There's no honking, no pushing, no visible chaos. It's a city of elegant efficiency. But speak to newcomers and another truth emerges. Beneath the calm, they say, is a kind of emotional winter. A coldness not of temperature, but of spirit. Social norms in Sweden prioritize privacy, independence, and non-interference. You don't speak to strangers on the train, you don't ask personal questions, you don't initiate unless invited. For lifelong Swedes, this is respect. For others, it's isolation. Loneliness here is not just a feeling, it's a social condition. Studies consistently show high levels of reported loneliness, especially among men and immigrants. People live side by side, but rarely intersect. The irony? In a country that ranks among the most progressive and equal in the world, people still feel deeply alone. This cold culture extends to relationships, work environments, even parenting. It protects personal space, but often at the expense of warmth. It's a life lived in clean silence. For many, that silence becomes a wall, one that even nature can't break through. Modern life meets medieval charm. Sweden's aesthetic is breathtaking. In towns and cities, modern minimalism meets storybook architecture. Red brick homes with triangular roofs, cobblestone paths that lead to medieval churches, lakes that shine like mirrors. Infrastructure here is immaculate. Roads are wide and smooth, buses glide without delay. Even owning a car, especially used models, is affordable by European standards. A second-hand Volvo might cost you only $12,000 with low state taxes. But the beauty goes beyond functionality. Swedes cherish the outdoors. Families load up their wagons with tents and head for the woods. Barbecues in the forest. Ice baths in lakes. These aren't just hobbies, they're rituals. Nature isn't separate from daily life, it is daily life. Yet for some immigrants, especially those from more vibrant, crowded countries, this stillness feels alien. The landscape may be beautiful, but the emotional climate is harder to navigate. Sweden's charm is timeless, but its culture demands patience, and those without it may find themselves frozen, not by weather, but by waiting to feel welcome. And so we come to the final contrast, the paradox that defines Sweden. Safety and loneliness, beauty and burden. A country of contrast, Sweden is a contradiction wrapped in snow. It is one of the safest countries in the world, and yet it now battles youth violence and urban bombings. It boasts one of the most beautiful populations on Earth, and yet suffers some of the highest levels of reported loneliness. It is a place where nature heals and where silence wounds. The economy is stable, but the cost of living is crushing. Society is equal on paper, but emotionally divided in practice. Laws protect everyone, but not everyone feels protected. It's a country that opens its arms and then keeps its distance. Sweden is not heaven, nor is it hell. It's something far more real and far more complex. A mirror of the modern world, orderly, anxious, beautiful, conflicted. For those who move here, the experience is deeply personal. Some find peace, others find pressure, but no one leaves untouched. Because Sweden, in the end, is not just a place, it's a test of who you are and who you're willing to become.